Hi, my name is Andrea Romero, and I'm a plant bio major. And my mentor is PhD student Jolene Saldivar, and my faculty mentor is Dr. Aaron Rankin. And so my poster is on exploring patterns of plant utilization by Vanessa Cardewy using community science. So this is my poster, and I've broken it down to more palatable pieces in the following presentation. I'll give you guys a couple seconds. So pollinators such as bees, monarchs, and hummingbirds receive a lot of attention in literature and media. However, large gaps in knowledge exist for the majority of Lepidoptera, better known as the butterflies. Vanessa Cardewy are the painted lady butterflies. They're a cosmopolitan species, which means they're widespread. They're found around the world except Antarctica and South America. They are long-distance migrants, having a migration longer than the monarchs. And so the European African migration is well studied, yet there remains much to be known about the North American migration. Unlike Europe's annual migration, the North American one is dependent on winter rainfall, so not all years are migratory years. The mass migration that we saw here in Southern California in 2019 and 2020 was due to a wet winter in the painted lady breeding sites along the US-Mexico border. And during their migration, they used Southern California coastal sage scrub. This habitat provides an array of nectarine plants for them. Currently, however, this habitat is at risk of destruction due to overdevelopment, which can be catastrophic for their population as well as our local ecology. Community science, however, is a great resource to address this gap in research. In particular, the community science platform iNaturalist. It allows anybody with the app to upload photos of the observations, get help identifying species from scientists or naturalists, and collaborate with others to collect data. It helps observation-based studies overcome time and spatial limitations. So we used iNaturalist observations to find patterns in the painted lady butterfly nectarine behavior across time and space. To show the quality of the data we received, this first figure here is some of the observations we got from iNaturalist. So here in figure A, the painted lady is on a local native plant. In figure B, it's on an ornamental plant. And in figure C, it's on an invasive plant species. All of them appear to be feeding. So the adults or the butterflies feed on nectar. It's their flight fuel, and without it, they can't fly. But the caterpillars are the ones that eat the leaves. Okay, so the three questions we asked in this research was, what land cover classification were Vanessa Cardewy most observed on? What plant functional type did Vanessa Cardewy utilize more? And what plant functional types were Vanessa Cardewy shown to utilize most during the migratory period versus non-migratory? And so for data collection, we used iNaturalist. We focused on Riverside County during the years of 2008 to 2020. Using ArcGIS, we created a national land cover database map to track the location of the observations. And for each observation, we identified the land coverage classification, when it was seen, the plant species classification, including the functional type and whether it was native or non-native. We did not use any caterpillars and questionable observations in our data. Here in figure 2 shows all the quality check painted ladies observations for the years 2008 to 2020 in Riverside County. So here, figure 3, it shows total observations separated by land coverage classification, and each is divided by the functional type observed. So as a majority of Riverside is shrub scrub habitat, we can see that that land cover type had the most observations in the various plant functional types. While the shrub scrub habitat had a large number of observations that fell under other in functional type, meaning non-plant, such as cars, rocks, even hands. This can be due to just where the observer happened to be or happened to snap a photo of the butterfly. Okay, so figure 4 here shows the total painted lady observations broken down by the month. We can see that most of the observations were submitted between February and June, which coincides with the migratory season through California, through Southern California. However, out of all of the total observations, only 42% of them were during migratory years. The observations that fall outside that period may represent non-migratory or resident populations. Here, figure 5 shows the observations per land cover type during migratory and non-migratory seasons. However, there were only 2 migration years since 2008, and those were in 2019 and 2020. While this figure really highlights the importance of the shrub-scrub habitat for the painted lady migration, it also shows that during migratory periods, the painted lady's usage of other land cover types also increases. So figure 6 is observations by day of year across different plant functional types. This shows most observations found throughout the year had the shrub plant functionality. This functional type shrubs have a large range of perennial plants, which means they have a longer life cycle and can flower throughout the year. And they're sources of nectar for the painted ladies when other annual sources are not in flower. So from this project, we saw that acquiring data from iNaturalist observations allowed for more accurate inferences to our questions. And some overall patterns that we found were most painted lady observations were in shrub-scrub habitat and found on non-plant substrate. They were found throughout the year, but the largest numbers were during the annual migration, February to June. And during the migratory period, they were seen to use a broader range of plant functional and land coverage types, which shows a generalist species behavior, which means they can use any plant available for their life cycle. And since we found, for future direction, since we found that data acquisition from iNaturalist helped overcome geographic, temporal, and even funding barriers, the next step would be to extend the geographic range to the entire state. We would also focus on areas with higher developed intensity levels, like major cities, San Francisco, LA, to analyze any differences found. And this figure right here is a national land coverage data map at a state level. Okay. And so for acknowledgements, we'd like to thank the many community scientists who submitted and verified their observations through iNaturalist. We'd like to thank David Rankin for assistance with plant identification. I was supported by the Six Legs training program. My mentor, Jolene, was supported by the Eugene Cota Robles Fellowship and the Chicano Latino Alumni Association Scholarship. And I'd like to thank both Dr. Aaron Rankin and Jolene Southbar. Any questions?
Thank you so much for that very interesting presentation.